Welcome, Lulu. It's awesome to have you on this week's Fly High series, which is finance, leadership, and your high performance. And I'm so thrilled and excited to welcome you and have you on the show because I've been seeing some amazing posts by you, and I said it will be really awesome to pick your brains. And more importantly, a women leader is always something that excites me even more. So, a warm welcome to you, Lulu.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta. It's a real pleasure to chat with you today on high performance, culture, leadership, all subjects which are very dear to my heart.
Amazing, amazing. So, Lulu, it'll be great if you can just take us through your career journey and how you got to where you are, because then the viewers would also get to know a little bit more about you.
Sure, absolutely. Sangeeta, honestly, I've been really lucky. My story is a story of hard work and consistency over a long period of time, 22 years to be precise. But it's a story of having mentors who've given me that lift, that inspiration, and the push at the right time. It all starts with my mom. When I was in college, well, actually, when I was in school, she talked to me about the importance of a liberal arts education, and she encouraged me to apply to colleges in the US because there you really got a well rounded education. So when I was in my 11th standard, actually, she was the head of publishing at Tata Institute of Social Sciences, and she had gone on a visit to lots of scholarly publishing units of US universities, and she was mesmerized. She came back and she said, Lulu, you must study abroad. And this was huge because, I come from a pretty conservative Tam background. I'm an only child. My father, my grandmother were not really excited about me going to the US at 18, but my mom insisted. I applied and I got into many colleges, and I chose Davidson, which gave me a 100% scholarship. It's one of the top liberal arts schools in the US. And that's where my journey started, because it was a journey of self awareness, a journey of really understanding what education is about. It was about studying economics and applied math, but also really developing other skills like critical thinking, writing, presentation skills. All of that was honed there. So I would say the start was my mom, who pushed me into liberal arts. After that, I came back to India, and I was really thinking about investment banking or consulting. But I had a conversation with Shumit Roy from Lintas in those days, and he pushed me into an entirely different path that I had imagined for myself. He didn't push me, but he asked me this question on whether I wanted to be a small fish in a big pond or a big fish in a small pond. And he opened my eyes to the world of brand consulting, which he felt was a really good combination of right brain and left brain thinking, and introduced me to R. Sridhar, who gave me my first break and brand consulting at Ogilvy. It was a dream job, started out there. And then Sridhar gave me my next lift, which was that to be a consultant in India, you should have an MBA. You shouldn't just have an undergrad degree. While it's a good degree from a good college in the US, he encouraged me to do my MBA. So Sangeeta, I did that. I spent 2 years at SP Jain Institute of Management and Research in Mumbai. And after that, I actually got married and moved to the US and started at Landor 21 years ago. But during my course during my time at Landor in these years, I've had about 10 different bosses, and each one has given me a lift. And so I started in naming and brand strategy. I then actually spent several years working with our CEO at that time as his executive assistant. I then moved to New York, where I spent a couple of years on our strategy naming teams. Then, with my husband, moved to London, where I started learning about client servicing and new business development. And then I got a push and a fantastic opportunity to set up Landor then. Now it's called Landor and Fitch, our company in India. And that was 13 years ago, to establish the operations here. So it has been a story of mentors being there at the right time, really believing in me and giving me the opportunity. Then, of course, it's consistency, it's hard work, it's showing up every day, doing the work, exceeding expectations, which has allowed me to get to where I am today.
Amazing, amazing. What an inspiring story. And I must say that, two things was common was I'm also a Tamram and a single child. So, high
Oh,
five.
right.
Yes,
Amazing.
yes, amazing, amazing. Yeah, I mean, that was like really awesome. And definitely as mentors and coaches play such a vital role. And it's amazing to see that you've had somebody like guiding star through your career journey. Amazing. And yes, moms are so inspiring as well. And I can't agree more on that with you because they definitely shape our future so awesomely. So then I'd like to hear
Absolutely.
your perspective a bit on leadership. What do you think makes a person a leader? Because leadership is not just by the designation. There's something more to it. So I'd like to hear from you on what do you think makes a person a leader?
Sangeeta, my perspective on this has evolved. When I was a 13-year-old, starry eyed, and people would ask you, what do you want to be? My parents are from the corporate world. Well, my dad's from the corporate world. My mom's does social work. She runs an organization called Dignity Foundation, but both of them were in the C-suite, right? And so for me, it was always, I want to be a CEO. And when I was young, it was about reaching the top, and it was about getting ahead. It was doing well. It was all about the self journey. But I've come to realize that actually that's not what leadership is about at all. Leadership is about showing the way. It's really a job which is about helping other people shine. Of course, as the CEO, you have to have vision to take the company to where it's going. You have to have the technical prowess to manage in the industry that you're in. So the knowledge and the expertise. But the core job is putting the right people in the right roles, creating the right environment for the team to flourish, caring about people individually, especially those that report directly into you, and then being the chief cheerleader of your people. I think a lot of times CEOs tend to, or leaders, I should say, leaders tend to focus on customers, but really having empathy and helping your people achieve the highest performance that they can do within the limits of what's good for their health and well-being as well is important. So for me, being a leader is about guiding, helping others to be their best self.
Amazing, amazing. It so resonates with me, especially the empathy part, because sometimes I do find, leaders tend to miss out on this empathy, and it's such a vital piece. Then that's when you can really scale into the peak of each one's leadership potential. So amazing insights there. Thank you, Lulu, for that. As a senior leader, what do you think are some of the key financial metrics that are crucial for the growth of a business?
It's a really good question because many times you can lose sight of that or sometimes be too focused on that. So I think finding the right balance is really critical. I can tell you from our business, it is about revenue. You do need to continuously increase the number of clients that you have and also actually do more with the clients. We are in a professional services business, it's consultancy. So of course, revenue is the number one metric. Growing the top line is important. But then it's also how profitably you're serving those businesses. So we have a metric which is really about the freelance and the staff cost that is a component of that. And so we keep a close eye on that metric. So how much resource of the company is it taking to service that revenue is really critical. And of course, margin. At the end of the day, it is about profitability. So operating margin is important because I'm part of a larger company. We don't, look as much as net margin at my level, but operating margin. So making sure that you're bringing in high quality revenue, which you can service with, at a reasonable cost and deliver margin is extremely important for the business. So those are the metrics that I keep an eye on, as well as pipeline. The future demand, right? So how are we doing in terms of new business opportunities? Where are they in terms of conversion? And what is the pipeline for the next couple of quarters, perhaps even next year look like? Are we doing the things that are needed to create demand in the future. Many times it's easy to be very focused on current demand, but as a leader, you have to make sure the organization's capabilities are also servicing future demand, which includes the creation of new products and services for that future demand.
Amazing, amazing. So how do you create this demand that you mentioned, futuristic? How exactly would you advise people to create the demand? Because I really love that phrase.
Demand creation, that's what marketing is for, right? Marketing is not about just advertising or PR, but smart marketing is positioning your company in the minds of your customers in a way that's relevant to them, but also differentiated from others in the space. So having crystal clarity on your value proposition for your customers is really important. Listening to your customers really closely and seeing where they are going, what their needs are. So, for example, in our business, globally, we're seeing that our clients want a lot more certainty with the brand decisions that they take. And so, a few years ago, we started a new practice in insights and analytics. So, any brand decision, high stakes brand decision, is supported by data, right? We didn't have this practice many years ago, but it came from listening closely. And that is how you anticipate demand for your services, right? Another area is cultural transformation. We found that a lot of organizations, as they're undergoing digital transformation, have to also transform their cultures. And the cultures were not keeping up pace with the business transformation and digital transformation. And we saw there's a huge opportunity to use brand to help the organization transform their cultures. So it's listening, it's looking at the landscape of how it's changing, really anticipating client needs to create future demand. But then, of course, being there in the right forums. Our customers are all C-suite executives, so showing up where they hang out, having the value proposition that's really clear, and then having engaging conversations with them, and identifying the role of brand in driving their businesses is what creates future demand for us. So it's a combination of listening closely, evolving your products and services, but also really sharp, smart marketing, so you're showing up where your clients are.
Super. That's like awesome to note. And I'm sure that is a lot of useful pointers for people who are listening. I hope they were listening with rapt attention on what you said. And I'm also tempted to ask you one more question, which is, when you did mention about the financial metrics, do you also tend to look in on the profitability for each project that you do? And are any of your business decisions based on that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We look at every week, we look at our projects and see which ones are either over-resourced or under-resourced based on the project profitability, and we make those decisions. I have to say that it's a lot harder in India compared to the rest of the world. I've worked in the US and UK, and their contracts are sacrosanct, especially when it comes to design. If there's 2 rounds of refinements, it's 2 rounds of refinements. If we go to the third round, there will be an extra charge for that. Very hard to manage by contract in India, because once a client signs up, they expect you to do what it takes to get them to the right answer. And therefore, very often, Sangeeta, many projects go over scope. And this is across consulting, IT services, any professional services company in India, I'm sure, can relate to this. Clients really want much more than is strictly in the contract. So I think it's a fine balance of not completely going above and beyond what's actually scoped out, because there's an opportunity cost to that, but it's also not being super contractual. So we have our metrics, and then we have to decide which are the projects that we're really going to have an honest come to Jesus conversation with our client and request more scope, and where are others where there's a little bit more room for play before we have the conversation.
Awesome. Thanks. That was very good to note. And you know, Lulu, you are the first lady guest in the show, like, so I'm doubly
Oh,
excited that
wow, I'm
I'm going to
honored.
yes, yes. So I'm like very tempted to ask you, have you faced any specific challenges as a woman leader?
I'd like to say no, because I believe very often it's in our mind. There are internal barriers and there are external barriers. And I actually think the internal barriers, or the things that hold us back, sometimes dominate. In the Indian context, women have had a lot of opportunities. There are many progressive companies where women have the opportunity to advance. I've been in the boardrooms of the largest companies in India, and I've received a lot of respect because you come with knowledge and expertise. I have to say, though, when I came back to India, again, it was in my head where I felt like it was a disadvantage because I was younger, I was a woman, I had spent a lot of time abroad, and I felt maybe people won't take me seriously. Maybe they'll feel I don't understand the Indian environment. Maybe they'll feel I'm too young. Maybe they'll feel, what does this woman know? I have to say, there have been pitches that we've lost where we've not had that chemistry because I've been a woman, my team has been mostly women, and it's been a male dominated team on the other side. But I would say it's not because we're women, maybe it's chemistry. There have been equal other situations where it's been very male dominated and they've selected us. So I'd like to think I've not faced particular challenges as such. And corporate India is changing. And as long as you have value to add and expertise and knowledge, and you present yourself in a way in which people will listen to what you have to say, I think you can overcome barriers. Where there's difficulty is in organizations where the culture may not be that progressive, and you have women who are more junior, who are at the mid level in their career, where their voices are not heard, they're not taken seriously. Even in meetings, they may be shut down. That's a real problem. Personally, I haven't faced it because, as you saw, my journey has been more entrepreneurial and I've been forging the path. I've been the boss, I've been the consultant. And so I haven't faced it, but I do know that there are a lot of challenges that women face in workplaces that are not progressive. And I think it's our collective responsibility that everyone feels included, everyone has a voice. And this, both women and men who are in those situations should be looking out for those underrepresented, not just women, but men even. Some of them may be introverted and not speaking up. As a leader, we all have a responsibility, Sangeeta, to give everyone a voice.
Amazing. It's totally, I'm in agreement with you because that's exactly what I say as well. In my about 25 plus years in the corporate, I have never felt this any sort of a challenge because of being a woman, because I think
Yeah.
thanks to my upbringing, I was always told gender is never an issue. So I have never looked at it from the woman, the gender perspective. So I totally, resonate with what you say. That also leads me to ask you, you mentioned something very important, which is the culture. The culture in each organization definitely plays a very strong role on, how women are being treated, and be it at a junior level or the senior level. So is there anything that you would like to add there? Anything to make the culture a lot more inclusive? Is there anything you would like to say?
I'm a huge believer that culture eats strategy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and tiffin at 4 o'clock, right? My boss, one of my bosses taught me that culture comes first. Culture comes before creativity, which comes before serving clients. And what that is really an alignment with what we stand for as a company. Why do we exist? What's our purpose? What's our promise to the marketplace? And therefore, what kind of culture do we need to have? What are our distinguishing beliefs? What do we value? What's the way in which work gets done? What does it take to succeed in our company? What is frowned upon? That's culture. So it's the rituals, it's the beliefs, it's the values which get inculcated. And I think the brand can be a huge catalyst for the culture. If you define what the brand needs to stand for all stakeholders, then you work against that, or rather you work towards that to say what kind of culture really supports the kind of promise that we're keeping for all of our stakeholders. It's a constant work in progress, Sangeeta. The CEO must be the chief evangelist of the culture. Culture is not about free food, it's not about ping pong tables, but it's essentially how we treat employees, the environment, both the intangible as well as the physical space that needs to be thought through. Workspace design in its entirety is undergoing huge transformation. And I'm actually really excited to see, which companies will be super progressive in terms of how they reimagine work, the very notion of work as we come out of the pandemic. So this is a space to watch really closely because it has a huge impact on performance. Any CEO has to really pay attention to culture first before looking at anything else. The rest will follow. It's the systems, right? Even when they say when you study, and I'm a mom to two kids, and I'm constantly trying to figure out a way in which the input and the environment, the attitude and the approach is right, and then the results will follow. So same too for an organization. If we pay attention to the environment, the way we treat people, the way collaboration happens, what we celebrate, what we nurture, what we weed out, that really sets the stage for high performance.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So well summed up. And so, since you mentioned the high performance, I'm again moving on to the high performance. Say, according to you, what drives an organization for high performance?
Clear vision, a sense of purpose, why people come to work every day. Are employees really energized? Do they believe that they're part of a larger mission or vision that the company has, purpose? And are they really excited? Do they have clarity in their own roles? Is the culture conducive to delivering that? And do they themselves have high expectations of their role in the organization? And are they doing what it takes to get ahead? So I think there's a company level intervention that's required, but it also requires highly talented individuals who are pushing themselves and wanting to be better every day. A combination of that can really make your organization fly. If you look at organizations like Netflix, for example, it is a combination of amazing talent in the field plus a culture that truly supports. So giving them freedom, trusting in their decisions, delegating decision making, non-hierarchical, truly believing everybody to treat the business as if it were their own, really enables high performance.
Yes, absolutely right. Yeah, especially what you said, striving to get better, a better version of themselves, compared to what they were yesterday. I think that really propels a person ahead to give their best. And do you think, or rather, how do you think an organization can facilitate that sort of environment for the teams?
It's a lot of strategic intent and interventions. It has to happen over a period of time. We have to move people from really being aware of where the organization is going and what their role is, really understanding why that's important, believing that they make a difference, and then them actually doing what it takes, right? So that's a curve all the way from awareness, understanding, belief, and action. How that can be achieved is through very consistent interventions across a period of time with different levels in the organization. So senior leadership has to be handled very differently from high potentials, from the middle management, from factory workers to sales force. It's really thinking about what do we do for each of these groups? How do we get them to be truly aligned? How do we get them to work together? A very useful tool is the customer journey framework. So if you use a customer journey framework to map how the organization creates value, what the role of each group is, and what the interdependencies are, it allows everyone to have a bigger picture of the organization and to come together by breaking silos and working together, because ultimately, how you create value is serving the customer better. And so it's really intersection of customer experience, CX, and employee experience, EX. So CX and EX, if you pay attention to both at the board level, I think you can create amazing results for the company.
Yes, I think that would be an awesome formula, CX and EX. Lovely, lovely. Lulu, I was wondering, did you have an opportunity to read my book, Get High, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing the first couple of chapters. I would love to dig in much deeper to the book. I love the fact that you are making people aware that they themselves have a role to play in their own career. You know, many times you have employees who feel like the organization has to do something for you. Yes, it will, but you have to be the navigator of your own career, right? So I like that the emphasis of your book is on the individual. I like the simple setup that you have. The concepts are very clearly explained. There is time for reflection. There are spaces for answering questions and really doing the work. So I think it's a beautiful combination of theory, of inspiration, as well as practical guidance. And anybody who's really serious about high performance should definitely read your book.
Thank you. That was lovely and very encouraging because, since I've transitioned as a high performance business coach from the corporate world to be a CFO, I said, this is probably something, a space where I could help more individuals to see how they can grow. And so thank you. Your words are very, very encouraging. And as a last question, I'd like to ask you, what would be your words of advice for aspiring women leaders?
I would say take the time to do the work that's about self-development. It's really about thinking quite deeply about your unique gift to the world. Where do you add the most value? What is really special about you, Sangeeta? How do you articulate that special difference? How do you make people know that that's who you are? How do you build your professional reputation? Right? I think that's the starting point. And then I would say you've got to be your own PR agent. Women don't do this enough. We think that we can sit in the corner, do our hard work, and people will notice, and we will shine, and we will have exponential growth. That's not going to happen. You have to, within your organization, with your colleagues, you have to make your achievements visible. You have to do it in a way that's not boastful or arrogant or blowing your own trumpet, tooting your own horn, but you have to make it known what you've achieved, what your wins are. Everybody has to find and navigate a way of doing it. I would say, in short, women leaders who find a way to build their personal brands, for them, the sky is the limit. Whether it's more board opportunities that you want to get, or if it is about other companies you want to work at, or even within your organization, if you want to grow, having a very strong personal brand can help you go places. And for that, I say you can do personal branding in 3 acts. Act 1 is definition, which is about being clear about the value that you provide. Act 2 is designing your personal brand. So how you dress, how you speak, how you communicate, how you then represent yourself in public media, including social media. And Act 3 is delivery. It's constantly doing it every day, every email, every speaking opportunity, every interaction, being consistent with who you are. You slowly build up your reputation and goodwill, and suddenly you're going to have opportunities everywhere. And there'll be an embarrassing riches, right? So many opportunities, you don't know which one to choose. So
Yeah.
that would be my guidance for women leaders.
Yes.
Focus on building your personal brands, and it's going to take you to infinite places where all of your potential can be realized.
Amazing. The three Ds, that is define, design, and deliver. I mean, that is, really very catchy. And I'm sure all the women leaders who are watching, and even the aspiring women who want to get to the position where we've all reached, I'm sure they would be totally enriched with this. So thank you so much, Lulu. It was amazing having you on the show. And, it was great to hear all the lovely insights that you've shared. And it's my pleasure to have had you as a guest on the show. And I wish you the very best of financial high performance.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta. It was a pleasure to be on the show. I think just one other thing I want to add, somehow we didn't cover this,
Yes.
but I think the notion of performance has to be well-rounded, right? It is really mind, body, soul. And I'm sure you've had this conversation with others as well. Personal wellness and organizational wellness is hugely important. And I really worry about burnout. I worry about the performance conversation, leading to a lot of burnout. So you have to be about high performance, but you have to do it in a way without really burning yourself out. So I forgot to mention this, but it's super important. An integrated, holistic approach to high performance is what I advocate.
Yes, I think that was
But
an
thank you again.
yes, my pleasure. That was an awesome closure because what you said is so, so important. Have it all aligned, your body, mind, and soul, because definitely that's when the best in a person comes out, be it personal, professional, whatever they do. So I think that was an amazing conclusion to what you said. So once again, thank you so much, Lulu. It was just simply awesome hearing you.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta.
See you. Bye.